All right, everybody, welcome. My name is Rachel Taylor. I'm the Director of Nursing here at Archer Review, and I am super excited to hang out with you all over the next 30 minutes to talk about a topic that is really close to my heart, test anxiety, and really conquering anxiety, whether you're prepping for your NCLEX or you're still in nursing school. Test anxiety is something that impacts a lot of people. And so I want you guys to let me know. You can do this in the comments or you can let me know here in just a moment in Slido if you struggle with test anxiety. But first, I want to hear from you guys. Where are you joining from? So you can take your mobile device and scan that QR code, and it's going to join you into our Slido event. Now, if you're like, oh, I don't want to join on Slido, you can just comment where you're joining from and let me know where you're at in the world. So I am in South Dakota. I live kind of by the Black Hills and love that we have a digital platform that allows us to all come together. So let me know, where are you joining from? Canada, Florida, Idaho, amazing. Ethiopia, really, really cool. Glad to have you here. UAE, awesome, amazing. Los Angeles, Oklahoma, Mexico, Orlando, Oregon, Ontario, amazing. Miami, Florida, England, so cool. Texas. I love doing this, and really it just reminds me of how we can all be connected toward one goal, of our goal to become nurses or our goal to pass the NCLEX or to support other nurses. So I'm really glad to have you all here joining. And I'm curious to hear if anyone struggles with test anxiety. So you can put this in a comment. You can put this in Slido, whatever you're the most comfortable with. You can raise your hand if you're joining on Zoom. But let me know if you struggle with test anxiety. And while you guys are letting me know this, I want to tell you why this is such an important topic to me and why it's something I spend a lot of time as an educator really working on. The reason is so many students struggle with test anxiety. When I first became an educator, my top student in my graduating class failed her NCLEX exam. And it then, helped me realize the impact that test anxiety has. She had never experienced test anxiety before, and this was really her first time experiencing test anxiety, and she didn't know how to work through it. And so when I was an educator, I then said, okay, I'm going to start working on this day one when they first come into nursing school. And you know what happened? Test anxiety levels dropped, test scores improved when we really focus on how do we decrease this test anxiety and maximize your chance of success. And the other reason I am so passionate about this topic is I personally significantly struggled with test anxiety in nursing school. I would be to the point where I was sometimes in tears. I almost walked away from the nursing profession altogether. And so, why this is a topic that is just so near and dear to my heart is I know there's more people out there like me who really struggles with this in nursing school or on the NCLEX. And if I can even help just one of you overcome this today, that is my goal. Hopefully more, but even just one. Because it is something that once you overcome it, it's like, oh my goodness, yes, I can really do this now. And it leads to so many amazing things. So I'm excited to talk to you guys about test anxiety over the next 30 minutes. But yeah, you guys are saying being anxious or you're on a second attempt. Now, I'm not going to go into a lot about being on a repeat attempt, but I do want to talk about this for just a moment. If you're a repeat test taker, please know that you are still worthy. You are still capable of doing this. The number of attempts you take on your exam does not define the type of nurse you are going to be. And I think it's really important to remember that. So let's go back. Let's talk about test anxiety and what it is. It is really a performance stressor. We have this feeling that we need to perform well or it is going to have a negative consequence. So I want you guys to think for a moment of what causes your test anxiety. I'm going to have you enter that in Slido in just a moment. But let me know what causes your test anxiety. For me, I have a massive fear of failure. If something is going to hold me back, it's that I am too afraid of what if I fail. The other thing is, as a student, I felt like I had to be perfect, right? My grades relied on it. My scholarship relied on it. So I had this need for perfection. And because of this, I set the standard as perfection. And if perfection is our standard, it's never attainable because none of us can be perfect. We actually grow the most and learn the most from our mistakes. So if we set our eyes on perfection only, we are all going to miss the mark. And so I want you to think about what causes your test anxiety. That was a big cause of mine. And I'll be honest, I'm in grad school now. And guess what? I still struggle with test anxiety. It's not gone. The difference now is I know how to control it instead of it controlling me. Now, the problem with this test anxiety in mild forms, it's great. It actually heightens our awareness. It makes us better test takers. But it's once we get to those high levels that we get what is called thought blocking. Has anyone ever been in a test before and said, I want to get out of here. I need this test to be over. Has anyone ever been at that point? Anyone ever been there before? Yeah, some of you are absolutely saying like, yes, I have felt the need to get out of a test. Do you know what that is? You're in your fight or flight. And when you're in your fight or flight, your initial feeling is, I need to remove myself from the situation. You're either going to fight it, you're going to freeze, or you're going to run. I'm the running person. I run when I'm in my fight or flight. And so if you feel that need to get out of an exam, it's because your test anxiety is too high. Well, what's the problem with this? When you are at this level, you can no longer critically think. You cannot apply clinical judgment. And to be successful in nursing school, to be successful on the NCLEX, you have to have those two skills. Now, if you're like, I can relate to this, and I maybe know some other students that could relate to this, maybe a classmate, or maybe you're an educator and you have some students that could relate to it, share this with them. I want to help anyone who is struggling with this really overcome their test anxiety. So I'm curious to hear from you guys. What causes your test anxiety? If you want to do it as a comment, you can do that. Or if you're like, oh, I don't want someone to know what I said, go ahead and put it in Slido. You can, again, scan that QR code and type in test anxiety. So I told you guys mine was that fear of failure. And you know what I find about the fear of failure? It's something I've struggled with pretty much my whole life. The fear of failure holds us back from our greatest success. And when we stop letting fear hold us back, there is no limit to your capabilities. But you miss 100% of those chances that you don't take. And so when we let go of that fear of failure and we start to take those chances, amazing things can happen. Let's see what else you guys had to say. Okay, a lot of you are with this fear of failure, not being confident. I want to talk about this. Use the raise your hand or comment just a yes in the chat if you agree with this. But does anyone feel that when their test anxiety is the highest, their confidence is the lowest? Anyone relate to that? Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of yeses here on Zoom. It looks like I'm seeing some on the other social platforms as well. And if you can relate to that, we have to increase that confidence. We're going to talk about how to do that in just a moment, but absolutely, it's directly related. The pressure to pass. Yes, there is pressures. Sometimes it's ourselves, right? Like I know for me, my greatest pressures come from myself as an individual, but family can be pressures. Maybe you have an aunt or an uncle or a significant other or a parent that they're like, Rachel, come on, when are you going to pass this test? Didn't you graduate 2 years ago? What are you so worried about? Okay. What happens when we have all these causes of test anxiety, the load starts to get heavy. Anyone feel like the load's a little heavy right now? Anyone feel like their load is just a little bit heavier than what they would like it to be? Yeah, a lot of you are relating and saying yes. So we know the cause. We need to then let go of the load and we need to figure out how do we lighten this load, which we're going to work on together. One thing I want to point out is someone said the fear of losing my job that I have. A lot of times, right, as a new graduate, you accept a job, but it is dependent on you passing the NCLEX. Do not let that hang over you, okay? You are capable. You can do this. I believe in you. You need to believe in you. But if you let one thing hang over you, it could prevent you from being successful. And what I will say, the beauty of nursing, there's going to be another job. The journey might look different for some of you than maybe you imagined, but you can still get to the end goal. There might be a few more curves in there than what you were hoping for, but you can still reach that end goal that you have. Okay. Imposter syndrome. I do want to take one moment just to talk about this and then we'll move on. Imposter syndrome is like a real thing. I can't tell you the number of nurses that I have heard talk about imposter syndrome. I've talked about imposter syndrome. Own your knowledge, own where you are at in the journey. And you might have a knowledge gap here and there. I have knowledge gaps here and there. And you know what we do when we have them? We fill the knowledge gap. Again, the beauty of the nursing profession. We continuously grow and evolve as nurses. And if we go each day with the attitude of, I want to be better tomorrow, again, imagine what you can accomplish in a year, in 5 years. So don't let imposter syndrome win. You are capable, you are worthy of this, and you can do incredible things. Now, with test anxiety, what we see here is that when you struggle with this, it's not just going to go away. I can give you the tools to be successful and to, take control and ownership of your test anxiety, but I can't make it go away. I wish I could, but I can't. And so what I want you to understand is what your signs and symptoms of test anxiety are. Because if you understand your signs and symptoms of test anxiety, well, what is that going to do for you? Well, what it's going to do is it is going to make you identify when it's happening early so that way you can address it. Because what happens when we don't address anxiety? It gets higher and it builds and it builds and it builds. So instead of letting it build, we're going to address it at the root of the problem. So I want you guys to think for a moment of how do we go back? How do we prevent this from happening? Number one is adequately studying and reviewing. Because when you adequately study and review, your confidence is higher. Anyone ever cram for a test before? Anyone ever cram? I can't be the only one. I know it's not just me. For nursing school, maybe you crammed, maybe you procrastinate things when they stress you out, okay? What happens is when we cram, our confidence is lower. And when our confidence is down, when we're not on the defense, that's the perfect time for test anxiety to sneak in and take control over our mind and our thoughts. Your mind is such a powerful tool. So we want to make sure we gear our mind toward what it can do instead of what it can't do. We want to build that confidence. One way to do this is to make sure you have no extra surprises on test day. How's the exam process going to work? Making sure you know, where's your test at? For example, when I was in nursing school, we used to take tests in a different room than where we had our lectures. So I didn't know where was that room. It was a different time even than when our normal lectures were. And so understanding exam process in nursing school on your NCLEX is so helpful. Now, I'm curious to hear from you guys. What's your earliest indicator of test anxiety? So you can probably see my face is pretty red. Okay. If I'm not wearing makeup, my red, it shines. I get pretty red all the time. If I'm a little anxious, if I'm stressed, if I'm warm, the red shows. And so I know if I start to feel that way, oof, am I getting a little anxious? And then I'll feel my heart. It starts to get really tachycardic. And you know what else I have? I have an emotional response. For some people, they get really sad. For some people, they get frustrated. I am someone when I'm really anxious, I'm going to kind of come out with frustration. And so that to me, if I know I'm frustrated, it's like, okay, I need to take a couple breaths and I need to restart this process over. Some of you get headaches. Some of you get a little shaky or you start to zone out. When you're in the zoning out, it's kind of your mind going blank. You're at a high level of anxiety there. You start to feel fear. You get quiet. Yes, I also get quiet sometimes. Absolutely. You get abdominal discomfort. You don't want to eat, right? When these things happen, this is when you need to address the anxiety. We don't let it build until the point that we can't go on anymore through the test. We don't let it build to the point of us saying, oh my goodness, I can't do this right now. We address it before we get to that point. Now, I'm curious to hear from you guys if you agree with me or if you don't. Does anyone feel like society has taught us to push through test anxiety when it happens? Can anyone relate to that? Anyone relate to society has maybe taught us to just push through when you have anxiety? It's normal, it's expected, you just have to work through it. Anyone relate to that? Okay, I'm seeing some yeses. Yeah, some of you are saying this is true, okay? So what I'm going to teach you is to not do that. I'm going to teach you to look at this differently. What I want you to do is when you experience this test anxiety, this is your indicator that a big old stop sign is coming up and it's telling you to pause, to utilize your anxiety toolkit. Because if you are in your fight or flight or freeze and you are not using clinical judgment and critical thinking because you physically can't, you're not going to be as successful. So if we take a step back and we're like, okay, let's use our tools, okay? We're going to be able to apply clinical judgment. We're going to be able to use our critical thinking and think as we would as a nurse. And these are tools that don't just help you when you are testing. These have helped me as a nurse, right? Let's say I'm taking care of my client in the ICU and they are coding or they start hemorrhaging and there are problems happening. I have to deal with that pretty quickly. So for me, what helps, I take 5 seconds to take a deep breath and then to go for it, right? Because I have to take action and I have to do so quickly. So I'm curious to hear from you guys. Do you push through your test anxiety or do you pause? Where are we at today? What are we doing right now? I know we said yes, we feel like society has taught us to push through, but what are we doing right now? Do you feel like you're at a state where you're pushing through it, or do you feel like you're, okay, I can pause? Okay, awesome. Some of you are saying you pause, you maybe get blurry, feels kind of forced, okay? Little of both, push through, tank it. Okay. Push through because you don't want to be slowed down. I need to address this because that was me. And let me tell you what happens here when you push through because you don't want to slow down. Your ability to answer questions decreases. You're not going through them with intentionality. You're not going through them how you should every single time. And when you do that, you get questions wrong that you would normally get right. That's why you want to process to how to answer NCLEX style questions. That's why we teach you that at Archer Review, is because when you go through it with a process, you are going to be a lot more successful, okay? So pause, deal with that anxiety, and then go through your questions. Amazing. Okay, so we're going to pause. And I'm going to talk in just a moment about what to do when we pause. But I do want to tell you, if you're almost to your test and you're like, I'm stressed out, Rachel, I am not ready quite yet for my NCLEX, and you want just a little rapid review, on March 19th from 12 to 2 p.m. Central, we are hosting our first 2-hour NCLEX review webinar. It'll be a webinar style. We priced it only $25. We wanted it to be super affordable for anyone who wanted to join. But you can scan that QR code. You can also just look up Archer Review NCLEX webinars and you can find it there as well. But there's an option for you if you feel like you just need some quick, rapid review over the high yield topics. I'm excited. I think it's going to be an awesome event. So here's what we do. When the test anxiety sneaks in and we don't know what to do, we're going to use these 4 tools. The first is positive self-talk. I told you guys earlier that mindset matters. Your mind controls so much, right? If I have a negative attitude, if I have a negative mindset, I'm going to hit problems. But when I think through things positively, when I think through things of, okay, this maybe isn't going right, but what can I bring to the table? How can I solve this solution? That positive self-talk is huge. Anyone feel like they talk a little negatively to themselves? Anyone do that? Oh, like, Rachel, why'd you make that mistake? How did you not know that answer? How did you not know what to say in this scenario? Or when a student asks this question, how did I not know how to respond, right? That negative mindset can take over. So we're going to talk in just a moment of how we reframe that. We're going to use deep breathing as our second tool. There's actually some science behind this. We're going to release tension. And lastly, if nothing else works, we reground ourselves with the 3-2-1 rule. So positive self-talk. Anyone have 5 questions or 3 questions in a row they don't know the answer to, and they start to say, oh no, I'm not ready for this. I'm not smart enough to do this. I'm not capable of this. When we start to think that way, that is what is going to take over, that we aren't capable, but you are. You are capable of doing this. You are worthy of doing this, but you need to believe that. I believe it. I need you to believe it. Maybe you have a knowledge gap, but instead of saying, man, Rachel, you're such an idiot, right? Like that's what I would have used to have said to myself probably. I'll say, okay, I have a knowledge gap and this is how I'm going to fill it. Hey, I'm not there yet, but I'm working toward it. And when you reframe that mind, amazing things happen. I want you to start to talk to yourself how you would talk to your best friend, how you would talk to your child, how you would talk to your parent. I know if my kiddo came up to me and said she was stupid, I would say, no, we are not saying that. You haven't figured it out yet, but you're working on it. Hey, you are capable, you are worthy. And when you start to talk to yourself how you would your best friend, how you would your child, you're going to notice that that positive mindset reframing makes you feel more capable. And when you feel more capable, the chance of success is higher. Have you ever walked into an interview or a room and you're like, I am so confident right now? Not like a fake confidence, but you just feel confident about it. That's how I want you to walk into your NCLEX. If you walk in feeling self-doubt, worried that you're not ready, that you're not capable, it's going to be so hard for you to work through that test anxiety. Now, the next thing you can do is deep breathe. And I'm going to look goofy for all of you, but that's fine. I don't care. I'll look goofy for you all, but do this with me. When it starts to feel heavy, when you're taking the test, when you're in your clinical placement and the anxiety starts to feel heavy, I want you to close your eyes and I want you to make sure both feet are on the ground and you're going to take a deep breath in through your nose, hold it, and out through your mouth. Let's do it one more time together. In through your nose, hold it, and out through your mouth. And I want you to remind yourself that you are capable, and I want you to say it out loud. Say, I am capable and I can pass this exam. Does anyone feel a little more confident after doing that? Does anyone feel like the stress is a little bit lower? What happens when we take a deep breath is we put pressure on our vagus nerve. And when we put pressure on the vagus nerve, what happens is we remove ourselves from our fight or flight. So I want you to make sure that you remove yourself from your fight or flight, and then you go forward. You can also tense up your shoulders and relax them, tense up your shoulders and relax them. What happens is we hold stress in our shoulders. If you've ever gotten really sore after a really stressful day in your shoulders, it's because you're holding your tension there. You're holding your anxiety there and you want to let go of that. And then lastly, if nothing else is working, you're going to utilize the 3, 2, 1 rule. What is this? What are 3 things you see? So I see my computer. I see all your awesome comments. I see you guys engaging with me on socials. I see my mouse and I see my desk. Those are 3 things I can see. What are 2 things I hear? I hear myself talking. I hear my computer fan, which is way louder than it should be, right? But I can hear those things. And one thing I can touch is the desk in front of me. I do that and it regrounds me. It utilizes your senses to bring you back to reality. Because when you're in your fight or flight, you are not present with everything going on around you. So when you become present with the things happening around you, it removes you and regrounds you. So I'm curious to hear from you all, what other strategies have you used for test anxiety? What has worked for you? What hasn't? What questions do we maybe have that I could answer? If you have a question about test anxiety or something you really want to talk through, let me know. Deep breathing. You do squats. I love this. Exercise is great. It's a great thing to add into your regular routine. Speaking positively. Awesome. Jumping jacks. Pausing and deep breathing. Praying. Yes. Amazing. Anything else that you have that you've used that has helped you? Scrunching your toes and releasing. I've never heard of this one, but I like it. I like it. Okay, crying alone and letting it all out. I want to address this for a moment. I want to tell you, emotions are okay. Emotions are okay to have. Going through the exam, it is okay to afterward feel like you want to cry, or in nursing school to have those emotions. But what it tells me, when you're at that point, reach out to a mentor. Leah on Zoom said, ask guidance, ask for help, ask for guidance. That is why we're here. We want to help you in those moments that you feel alone, that you feel like you don't know how to go forward. That is when Archer Review is here to help lift you up, to support you in those challenges, to help you go through them together so you don't feel alone. Because we've been there. I've been there where I almost walked away from the profession altogether. I failed my first quiz. I got a 40%. And I was like, oh man, I'm not cut out for this. I called my mom crying. I chose the wrong major. I'm not ever going to be successful in this career. And I'm so glad I didn't walk away from it, but I needed somebody to encourage me in that moment. And so you might get to those times that you just need someone to encourage you. And that's why we have tutoring. That's why we can be mentors and coaches for you. Yeah, use that critical thinking. What do you do when you're sitting at the computer in the test? Are you allowed to stand up and stretch your legs or your arms? You can take a break. To take a break during the NCLEX, you raise your hand. You are offered a break at 2.5 hours in, and then again after that. But I personally recommend just raising your hand, taking that break when you need the break. So typically, I always recommend at question 86 and again at question 115. Talk to my best friend about what I'm feeling. I love that. Others around you can be so helpful. Sometimes it's like we just need someone to say, yep, your point is valid, or hey, you're seeing it this way, but maybe this would make a little more sense or work a little bit better for us. Reminding yourself that you can do it. Absolutely. And I want to remind you you don't have to know it all. I know that a lot of times in nursing school for the NCLEX, we can feel like we have to know it all. We have to know everything. But the reality is you don't have to know everything. That's why when let's say you're working the floor for the first time, you're going to have a preceptor with you that's helping you when you're training in. Or let's say when you're on your first shift and it's your first one where you are the charge nurse. You have resources around you that can help you. Because when you don't know it, you just admit you don't know it, you ask for help and you move forward. When you go take the NCLEX, or maybe you're taking a test in nursing school, there's a chance that you're going to get a question you don't know the answer to. And what I need you to do in those circumstances is to trust your gut, to trust your instinct, to follow it, and to move on. And that's okay to do sometimes. Now, really what I want to just reiterate, key takeaways. Start implementing these measures now. We're not waiting till test day. We're starting today. And when test anxiety strikes, I want you to pause, use your toolkit. Don't just push through it. And remind yourselves that you are going to be amazing nurses. Do you know why I know that? Because you're here today. If you didn't care about your nursing career, you wouldn't have shown up to this today, but you did, which tells me you care. And the more you care, the more that your heart is in it, the more that you are going to really be an amazing nurse. And so keep showing up. Keep showing up, not because of your job offer, not because of someone else wants you to do this. Show up for you. Show up for what your why is. Whatever you want to accomplish in your nursing career, show up for that reason. And let that motivate and encourage you when things are hard. Now, if you're like, I don't even know who you are, Rachel, you're just talking on and on. I don't know what Archer Review is. Archer Review, we provide test prep all the way from the start of your nursing journey when you are prepping for your TEAS exam or your HESI, all the way through advanced practice nursing. And what really has motivated us is that we want to be the resource that we didn't have when we were in nursing school. I want to help the people that I wish I had supporting me, or, those people who encouraged me. I want to be that for you guys. So if you are, prepping just to get into nursing school, or you're all the way to advanced practice, we have resources for you to help not just encourage you, but to guide you. We have a nursing school companion product. Everyone from nursing school to NP, we are in that profession. was an ICU nurse. Jennifer, she was a midwife. Elizabeth was also a midwife. We've got all the people on our team who have done amazing things in nursing, but we're all with the same mission of we want to help support other nurses on their journey, whatever that journey might look like for you. And I do want to remind you, we are more than just test prep. I care about your guys' journey. I want you to reach your goals and be there along the way. So if you guys ever need anything, if you have a question, if you're like, oh, Rachel, I'm not quite sure, you can always email us. The email for our NCLEX team is nclextutors@archerreview.com. But I hope you guys enjoyed the live today. If you've never heard of us before or haven't seen us before, go ahead, give us a follow. That way you can see when we go live again. We go live usually at least 3 to 4 times a week. So if this was helpful to you, give us a follow, give us a shout out on socials. Thank you so much for joining us. We do have something I want to show you really quick. If you go to Archer Review and you look here, we currently have a 10% off for our Sure Pass combo. This is the #1 package I recommend to students. So if you haven't started your prep yet, this is where you can start it. Go to Archer Review. This would be for NCLEX, and you can just use Archer Cares because we truly do care about each and every one of you. So good luck on your journey. Thanks for letting Archer Review be a small part of it, and I'm rooting for all of your success and cannot wait to have you join me in the nursing profession. Bye, everybody. Have a great day.